So we will go ahead and get started now. I think there'll probably be people that will be trickling in, but please feel free to use that chat. I will keep it enabled for the remainder of the presentation. If you guys want to chime in, and you can chat amongst yourselves, and I will have some information on how to use the rest of Zoom for our presentation tonight. We will go ahead and get started. And just wanted to give a brief overview. So my name is Becca Shelton, and if we have not had a chance to meet yet, I'll give you a little bit of information about what we do in career services in just a moment, and what your access to is here at the University of Richmond. So we'll be talking about networking tonight in a virtual world. So much has changed in the last 6 months with how we do everything, almost everything in our lives. And even those things that we would normally do, we changed how we do them, right? Work is not the same. Home life is not the same. Many things, the way that we meet people. And that's why we're here tonight to talk about we meet people in this day and age when we can't go to big events that would normally be scheduled. Couple administrative things I will say really quickly is that if you do have questions, like it's there up on the screen, if you do have questions, just please use that Q&A feature down at the bottom. Like I said, I'll keep the chat function open if you guys want to chit chat with each other. I'm totally fine with that. This is of course about networking, so I want you guys to connect if you want to. But if you have questions for me as we're going through the presentation, please just use the Q&A. That's going to help me. I am flying solo tonight, so that's going to help me to manage the questions and be able to get to those that we can. Speaking of questions, I will go through a few slides. I'll have a pause for questions. So if you're thinking about anything, I see we do have one person that has put in a question, which we will get to. But if you are thinking about anything throughout the presentation, go ahead and throw it in there, and we'll get to it when we get to the questions. And then of course I will have time for questions at the end. So what we'll cover, I won't spend a whole lot of time on the first couple of things here, but I do want to chat about what has changed in the last 6 months with how we network and meet people and keep up with those that we do know. What kind of things are the same with networking, because there are certainly some tried and true things that probably will never change. We'll be talking about developing a networking strategy for yourself, some etiquette within this new virtual world, and finding people now. And in that last part, I will also focus on showing you some things with LinkedIn and some other tools that you can use as resources to try to identify people. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So as I said earlier, I want to just spend a little bit of time telling you, if you're new to us, if this is one of your first virtual events, maybe you're an alumni and you have no idea what you have access to. Here you are with our career services office. This is what we have. And this also includes SPCS students. In my role in the career services office, I am the only advisor on the team that works with our alumni populations, as well as our SPCS students and MBA students and alumni of those two programs. So I work with a lot of people. Most of you all are, I've had some experience, but I know we have some 2020 grads on here. If you want to reach out, I have been talking to a lot of you lately. Happy to chat about your situation and what we can do for you. But in terms of one-on-one career advising, which is the bulk of the work that I do, that we can talk about all kinds of stuff. I'm experienced talking to people that are a little bit older in their career, people that are maybe looking at switching careers, and those that might have unfortunately experienced job loss. We have quite a bit of that lately, which is a really unfortunate side effect of the pandemic and the economic downturn. But we can talk about those kind of things. We can talk about mock interviews, all those things over there. I will be sending these slides out also after, probably in the next few days. So if you want any of the links in here, that will be there in the presentation, the slide deck for you to access at that point. Some of the resources there on the right-hand side, we do use Spider Connect. That's our content management system, CMS. And that does a few things for you. especially for those 2020 grads, it's job opportunities. And there are definitely some stuff in there for our SPCS students. We get a fair amount of paralegal postings and HR stuff. Events and workshops are also in Spider Connect, and that is how you schedule an appointment with me. If you have no idea what Spider Connect is, maybe you don't even know that you could get an account with it. I will also be sending out how to access that, your Spider Connect account if you're, a lot of our older grads, one, it wasn't around when you were here, and two, you just don't know how to access it. So I'll send out instructions for that if you want to schedule an appointment. And I do other things down there, monthly newsletters, we do career expos and other online resources as well. So let's dive into our content tonight. So like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit at first about what's the difference now? How has, with the last I hope it's been 6 months, maybe it's been more, I don't know. Time has it's all been the same this year. But in the last number of months, what has changed since March? First of all, we have never really had to have this much physical distance, which is very challenging, even for us introverts out there. This is difficult because we don't have those automatic events that go on that you can sort of expect, right? Like maybe you had a weekly or a bi-weekly, social hour with your colleagues, or you had professional development organizations that you regularly got together with. Maybe you went to conferences. You could expect an annual conference that you knew you would get a chance to either catch up with colleagues or meet new people in your industry. So that's been very frustrating, right? We've never had to do this much, and we've all had to figure out personally and professionally how to keep in touch with loved ones and people that we know professionally in the virtual space, and how to meet new people, right? Because we all know that networking is a really important part of any job search. So let's try to figure out how to navigate this new space. What's also different is that for many of us, home is work and work is home. There's not a lot of boundaries, and we have to work a lot harder at creating those boundaries between the two. If you're fortunate to still be working in some capacity and maybe you're working from home, that is a very challenging thing to try to balance those. If you are somebody that is actively job searching and you're having to do all of that from your home space, you still have to separate your job search activities from your home life, because it all sort of melds together. And then if you have other people in your house, maybe you have little ones, or you have, a partner, or just any other person in there, loud noises, things like that, people sort of coming, barging in your room while you're trying to do something, can then be a little bit frustrating. So, making sure that we are spacing out our networking activities, so we're not trying to do 4 in a week, maybe not tie up 4 of your evenings or 4 of your lunch breaks, and just being really open and communicative with the people in your physical space, so they know what's going on with you and what you need from them. Like, for example, because this is in the evening, I have a sign on my door that says, "Please do not disturb," so my husband does not decide to walk in here and start talking to me. So that's one thing that you can do. And what's different now too is that we are using different tools, because like I said earlier, we don't have those automatic things or events that just happen and we can expect to go to them. We have to just find different ways to connect with people, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. So that was what's different. Let's talk a little bit about what is still true very much about networking, even in a virtual world when you can't go to large groups of people. One of the things, first and foremost, is that the goal will always still be, and hopefully should be for you, to build mutually beneficial relationships with the people that you connect with, even if it's people that you already know. I know we have some young folks on here. You don't necessarily need to feel like, a lot of times when you are a young professional that's just starting out and trying to get experience, you feel like if I'm connecting with somebody that's a little bit older and they're more experienced than me, I don't know that I have something to offer. There's no pressure that you have to feel like you offer something immediately to them. Just keep in mind the idea of paying it forward, even if it's a little bit later. A really sort of small example would be like the other day, even though I wasn't trying to network necessarily with my supervisor, my supervisor does so much for me. And one of the small things that I could do in return for her was give her a copy of, of some presentation materials that I had used previously, because she was needing to get something done soon. So even if it doesn't come immediately, it can certainly come at a later point that you can give back to them. Sort of tied in with number one is number two, that no me first attitude, even if you are job searching, which many of you might be. Really the goal here is to aim for informational interview style conversations. And this is really where you approach the meeting or the conversation with somebody from exploratory stance with a lot of curiosity. If you haven't heard about informational interviews, it's an industry term that we use, and it's probably stuff that you've done before, you just may not have known what we call it. But really, informational interviews are a chance for you as the person that's seeking information or opportunities to talk to a professional. Maybe they're a peer professional, so they're around your age, or maybe they're an experienced professional that you would be looking for other things from. But when you chat with them, you're trying to get some information from them. A lot of things, a lot of things down there, sort of under number three, would be things that you might want to know from them. And so that leads us into, determining your goals for networking. The important thing here is there can be more than one. I do encourage all of you, before you sort of embark on this journey, or maybe you're in this webinar because you wanted a chance to sort of refresh. Maybe you've been doing some networking and reaching out and it hasn't really turned out the way you wanted it to. And that's perfectly fine. It's a great idea to take a step back from any kind of situation and reevaluate, see what's working and what's not. But wherever you are in this process, I definitely encourage you to think about your own goals for your networking. And like I said, there can certainly be more than one. And most people find themselves in that situation. So I encourage you to, instead of thinking my goal is to get a job, internship, whatever other opportunity I want, which ultimately more than likely is, well, let's reframe that to think about, how about maybe I try to use connections to identify companies that I could be interested in. Maybe there are ones that are in line with your goals and mission, but you just didn't know about them yet. Learn more about the target companies that are on your list. This is a big one for most people, meeting people and or making inroads at the organizations that are on your target list. This is so helpful in any job search, to try to know people that work at an organization, and especially to help try to get them on your side when it does sometimes for applications. Getting company insights for applications and or interviews. This is really important too with networking. This has been very helpful for me in the past, because oftentimes if you get a really great person on the other end of the line, that can give you some insight into a company that you are interviewing for, you are getting ready to apply for, they can give you that inside information that you can't find on the website. And I've been lucky enough before to utilize that, and it was extremely helpful in my interview, and dare I say might be one of the reasons why I got the job. It also gives you a chance to get referred to others in your second circle. So when I say second circle, I really mean like friends of friends. So those people that you don't know yet, but that know people that you immediately know. And this can be really great in just sort of expanding your knowledge and helping you expand your goals. And help with your job search, which ultimately most of us want, right, from networking. That will come when you have the right attitude and approach to these conversations. So I do encourage you to think, when you approach people, think from the more of, like I said, the exploratory and just the curiosity kind of questions to get to know them. So I think after this slide, we're going to have a chance for some questions, which I see we do have quite a few. So thank you for submitting those already. So I wanted to take a chance to first talk a little bit more in depth about developing your networking strategy. So in line with and sort of parallel to your goals that you might be thinking about, have a strategy for yourself and how you're going to approach this. Most people that I speak with about networking, usually they come to me, either they've been doing it for a while, but they feel like they don't have a lot of direction, or they've been doing it and it's just not been working out the way that they wanted to. They're not getting responses, which is not really your fault at all. Or the conversations just haven't been terribly fruitful. So I like to talk to people about developing a strategy and figuring out the right way to approach it. So first and foremost, making sure that no matter if you are currently working or not working, you are allocating time each week for this. So when you are thinking, about what you are, how your schedule's laid out each week, what you're going to be doing, hopefully this should be part of it. And when you are allocating time for networking, that can either be, scouring any of like LinkedIn or any of the other resources that we'll talk about. Your time could be spent sending, 2 to 5 requests to people. Maybe your time could be spent connecting with those that you already know and, just checking in and refreshing that relationship. So whatever that is, that's all time well spent. That's working on your networking strategy. Deciding who you want to meet or maybe need to meet based on your goals. And those could be a variety of people depending on how they could be helpful to you. So just making sure you're being really mindful of who you're reaching out to, why you're reaching out to them, and what you hope to gain from that relationship is really important. And that helps you to frame, how you reach out, what you say to them. I always say aim for quality over quantity. The goal is not to rack up as many LinkedIn connections as you possibly can. Really, the goal is to have quality conversations with quality people that can be helpful, right, over time. So really, please aim for that. The conversations, again, sort of related to the above, need to be authentic and reciprocal. The reciprocal, like I said, might come a little bit later in the relationship, and that's totally fine. But they really should truly be authentic and not, I'm reaching out to you to gain some more connections or for whatever other reason that's disingenuine to yourself. Like I said earlier, start by nurturing your existing relationships, and really and truly, especially in this time period, please be patient with people's response times. We are all pulled in about 100 different directions. Everybody has their own situation that is pulling them places, and just be really patient with them, especially if you're reaching out to professionals that might be working from home. Again, they might have some loose boundaries there with home and work. So just be, really patient with them, and we'll talk about sort of checking in with them, following up in just a little bit. But I did want to provide here an example of, if you just allocated 30 minutes for yourself, here are some things that you could easily accomplish on LinkedIn, which will get you pretty far. So you can think about skimming your home feed to see what's shared and engaging with your connections there, commenting on industry-related items, or congratulating your connections. And again, that's just engaging with them. Sending messages to birthday and work anniversary notifications. So if you check your notifications bar on LinkedIn, you'll see when people have those, and you can send them a really quick message, and that means a lot to people when you just give them, a really quick 1 or 2 sentence message just to let them know that you're thinking about them. Finding new companies of interest to follow and looking for people you may know, and we'll talk about this towards the end when we look at the LinkedIn, but looking for those second-degree connections. So hopefully this is helpful. Like I said, I think we've got Q&A slide next, and so we'll be moving on to that, but I hope that this was helpful in thinking about some ways that you can start developing your own strategy. So I see we have a few. Okay, let's see. What's a good way to interact with employers at virtual conferences? So conferences or like career fairs or expos, I'm imagining that's sort of what you're referring to. It's, again, sort of depends on what your goal is for that. If you're at a career expo, I would encourage you, when you meet with employers, to really think about what would you like to know from them. When you're at a virtual career fair, certainly before you meet with any representative from a company, research their company first so you know what they do and what they're about. But also research to see what kind of openings they have listed, because that, a one-on-one with an employer at an expo would be a really good way to check in if you have any specific questions about job postings that you see, and just as a way to sort of introduce yourself and talk about your skill sets and how you can be a good fit for that. Virtual career expos versus in-person career expos really are just, it's a chance to meet and greet. You don't necessarily share your resume there with them at that point, especially in a virtual career expo. But it's a good chance to meet and greet and get some contact information to follow up with them as well. So I hope that was helpful for that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the question that got 3 thumbs up. So thank you for that. Do I need to handshake LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, and every other career site, which are worthwhile? Okay. So, oh, wait a minute. Okay. So I would definitely sort of like the quality versus quantity approach. Don't spread yourself too thin, because then that means that you're spending most of your time just sort of following up with all of these maybe like 30 places that you put yourself out there on. So, maybe play around with some and see which is more beneficial for you, which gives you the best return that you're looking for. Which ones particularly are more worthwhile? I mean, the ones that I hear about the most often are all of the ones that you mentioned, really, except for Glassdoor. Handshake, LinkedIn, Indeed are really widely used. I typically use Glassdoor more for research on companies, like as you're applying or getting your applications ready. Really just, if you're preparing for interviews, just seeing what people are saying about it. But I would say that those are really good. But I think the bottom line is just don't spread yourself too thin on those, because then you're going to be spending all of your time sort of chasing your tail, so to speak, and not really doing a lot of productive stuff. All right, I'm going to get a sip of water and then we'll get to the other questions. Okay. Should I be messaging, networking with people such as prospective recruiters, alumni on LinkedIn? Yes. There are all kinds of people that you can network with on LinkedIn, and we will certainly talk about that in just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the LinkedIn is a good way. A lot of recruiters are on LinkedIn. It's a great way to make inroads and connections with them. Definitely alumni. Like I said, there's all kinds of people, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So when we have 2 more questions here that we'll get to. Somebody said, I'm sort of creeped out by LinkedIn invitations from complete strangers. Am I missing out? Nope, you're not. There are a lot of people that are creeped out by that. So you're certainly not alone in that feeling. And again, later when we talk about LinkedIn, one of the things that I will definitely cover is making a personalized message and how to sort of get somebody's attention. If, I will accept a connection request, and I know many people that will, from somebody that I've never actually met before. But if they send me a personalized message and tell me why they want to connect and what they want, I'm more than happy to. But if I've never met you and you're some just random person to me, I'm probably not going to accept that. So you're not alone. Last question says, what do you suggest are some good conversation starters when reaching out to a LinkedIn connection if they don't reach out to you first? Again, I'll have a couple sample connection requests that you can send on LinkedIn, and you can sort of use that to make it your own. What I would generally say with this is relate it back to whatever your goal is and what you're looking for from that person. I don't know that conversation starters necessarily need to be on LinkedIn. For me, what I see that website as a really good use for is the opportunity for you to take, that is, LinkedIn is a great place to meet people you would never otherwise have a chance to meet, even if we were not in a pandemic that required social distancing. So because it gives you that opportunity to meet all of these kinds of people, to me, I really see it as a way to move an online connection to a more personal connection, right? So to me, I see the goal is to get that from messaging in the platform to either like a video or a phone conversation, where you can have a much more personal relationship. Because remember, the whole purpose of networking is to develop a mutually beneficial relationship. And that's difficult to establish rapport through LinkedIn messaging. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, those were wonderful questions, and I really appreciate that. And we will move on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about virtual networking etiquette. And in this day and age, you are either probably looking at email versus phone versus video. As certain places start to open back up with, maybe some outside seating, at least in this season that we're in, and some social distancing rules, if you and the other party are comfortable, certainly, go to some outdoor seating at a coffee place and maybe chat, socially distance. But a lot of people are still sort of wanting to keep it virtual, which is totally fine. When you are reaching out to people, just making sure that you're asking them what their preferences are for, if they are responsive to say, sure, happy to chat with you, make sure that you ask them what they prefer. Some people, given their work or home situations, would rather do phone or video. Rarely do I hear people wanting to just answer your questions over an email, but every once in a while you might get somebody that says, happy to chat with you, just send me your questions in email, I'll get back to that. For a lot of working professionals, emails honestly just kind of a time suck, so they're trying to stay away from it. But the bottom line is just ask what their preferences are. I get a lot of questions about this. How do you first reach out to somebody? If you find them on LinkedIn, start that way, most certainly. If you can, try email first. I definitely recommend that. I like email because that gives you a chance to introduce yourself and give some context as to why you're reaching out to them. So if you can find their email, great. Or, like if you connect on LinkedIn, maybe you could then ask for their email to set up a time to chat. That could also be another strategy as well. And I always recommend, no matter who you are, when you are reaching out to people, to ask them to chat with you, always offer up days and times that work and see what their response is. Most professionals, and even me included, if somebody emails me and says, hey, I'd love to have an informational interview, can we chat soon? Can you give me days and times that work for you? That's a little frustrating for me because, my schedule is pretty hectic, and I would rather just have somebody else offer up what works for them, and we can go back and forth and see what pans out from that. So just always offer up. If your schedule is pretty wide open, you can just, say that, like, hey, my schedule is pretty wide open, most afternoons or mornings I'm free. Please let me know what might work for you. Again, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, just be patient. Everybody's pulled in a lot of different directions. Home and work is melded together right now, and life is just generally complicated. So, if you're messaging somebody on LinkedIn or using email to connect, if they don't respond to you right away, I always say follow up within like 1 to 2 weeks. And when you do follow up with them, just making sure that you're overtly saying, I understand that life is really busy right now, and I understand that you might have a lot going on, but I would love to chat with you for 20 to 30 minutes about these kind of things, and just see what happens with that. Generally, I say, as in the bottom one right there, do this, follow up once, and then move on. Especially with both email and LinkedIn. Especially with LinkedIn, though, a lot of people might not log in that often. They might log in once a week or once every other week. So they honestly just might not get it for a while. And with email, sometimes, you know, it depends on how the week's going, but sometimes that email just sort of gets buried under a lot of other stuff. And more than likely, they've seen your message. They've sort of made a mental note like, okay, I definitely know I need to get back to this person, but we've got these other deadlines or competing priorities right now. So just be really patient with them. And, you know, just like I said, follow up once and then move on. You might be surprised. It might be like a month or two later and somebody gets back to you and says, I am so sorry. I really meant to respond. I've had that happen to me all the time on LinkedIn. And I've been guilty of it myself as well. So just give people some grace. So now for the fun part, I wanted to really dive into, you know, now that we've talked a little bit sort of big picture about networking now in our virtual world, I wanted to sort of run through, and I'm going to navigate over to a different screen for some of these parts to chat about how we sort of specifically run through some of these. So first, talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has, and again, I'll demonstrate in just a couple minutes, has a lot of different opportunities to find people that you would never have met before and connect with them. My favorite, which I'll show you, is called Find Alumni. It's amazing. I think it's a hidden gem. This guy over here, the screenshot to the right, that is, you would just go to the university page and you would click on alumni, and it's basically a searchable alumni database, which is amazing. You can look at second degree connections and people at company, like people in your network that are at companies that you're interested in or that you have applied to. You Are Online is the other one that I'll show you. That is our in-house alumni directory. I don't know that if we have students on here, great. But students do now get access where in years past they have not, so it's awesome. And if, again, the link to the student access page is here. It's youareonline.net/students. For the alumni access, it is youareonline.net. And so that would be for any alumni. And that includes our SBCS and MBA in law, I believe. Yes, I believe all those have their own alumni directory, which is really great for you guys. So that's a great place, you know, and I often suggest for people to cross-reference who they find on, if you're looking for University of Richmond alumni, cross-reference your You Are Online and your LinkedIn, because some people might be on one and not on another. But people on LinkedIn you're probably going to get like real-time updated information. The You Are Online information is, we do get a lot of alumni that come back and update their information with us, but it's as good as what they give us. A couple other places really quickly that you can find people to connect with in a virtual world. Professional development organizations, these are really great. I have just finished working with an SPCS graduate who I've been working with for 2 years, and I stopped working with her because she got a job, and I'm so excited for her. But one of the things that she did that was incredibly helpful for her job search was she utilized the member directory. She was an HR student, and she was a member of the Richmond SHRM chapter, which is Society for Human Resource Management. She used the member directory to reach out to professionals in her field and make some networking connections, and it was very helpful. If you are a budding professional, maybe class of 2020 or a little bit younger, you know, a few years out graduate, professional development organizations that might be in your industry or industries of interest, they're usually fairly inexpensive, and they're really great because you get access to, like I said, member directories. A lot of professional development organizations also have virtual events that they're doing. Now that we've been in this situation for a while, people are figuring out how to do virtual events pretty well. And some of them might have mentor programs, which are really great. So a lot of opportunities that you can access from your own home that would be very beneficial for your networking. And the last thing I have here is other local civic organizations like Chamber RBA, or if you're in a different location, whatever Chamber of Commerce is in your area, young professional organizations, anything like that that's in your local area that's doing virtual events that you could, that you could access. So I will now, I'm going to navigate over All right. I'm going to navigate over now to LinkedIn because I did want to make sure that I showed you guys some stuff that I promised. So really quickly, we'll run through this. So the first thing is the Find Alumni tool. Excuse me. While my computer loads. So like I said, this is really a hidden gem. So all you want to do is type in University of Richmond in your search box, pull up the page, and actually, if you have other institutions that you've graduated from or that you're currently attending, pretty much every institution, it has a page on LinkedIn that has this kind of information in it. So you could look at any other place too. But what I would want you to do is go to the Alumni tab over here on the left. And like I said, this basically gives you a searchable database, which is amazing. And so if you click the next button, oh, let me go back here. So it first gives you geographic location. It gives you the specific place that they work, so the company name, their industry type right here, and it also gives you what they studied and the skills and your connection level. So I think a few of these are more helpful than others. Most people are doing a geographic search, or that's a big proponent of what they're looking for. If you have target companies on your list, this is really helpful. The industry type is also very helpful. And then especially for the young folks that, like, if you're a 2020 grad, maybe you had a certain you did have a certain major here at the university, but you're just not really sure what people when you're graduated with your major did. And so, you know, say if you were something that is really transferable, like psychology, you could look and see, you know, you could sort all of this and see, what do people with psychology degrees from the University of Richmond do? And it can give you some sort of ideas to look at. The thing that I love about this is that it is tiered. And so if you say you want to stick in the Richmond area, because it's a great little city, once you click on Richmond, it resorts all of the other 5 categories based on that. So now what you're looking for when you scroll down here, you are looking at all of the Richmond-based University of Richmond alumni, right? And so you can sort of go down through there. So this tells you what are the top places that people are employed here in this area, what are their industry types, and so on. And when you do find some folks here, one of the great things is that you could do is you could just easily find some people, sort of you might want to look through profiles a little bit just to get some more information, and then connect and send them a personal note. The other, just a couple other things here too, if you can do a keyword search. So I've done this a lot. You know, you could, if you were, say, an SBCS student in a certain program, you could look here and see who comes up for, you know, who might work in human resources, and you'll see you get some people that might be worthwhile. The other thing you can do too here with the start year and the end year is that you can sort by graduation date. So, you know, maybe you wanted to focus on some experienced professionals that had maybe 10 to 20 years in the workforce, or you wanted to talk to some peers that are closer in your age, you could sort of navigate that way. So I think this is a wonderful tool. I hope that you all do some exploring with it, and really use it to your advantage. The other thing that I wanted to show you really quickly on LinkedIn was, so if you go up here to the search bar and you search people, so this would be in all of your networks, not necessarily just the University of Richmond alumni that you could chat with. So it's supposed to, oh, there it is. Okay, just a little slow. So if you go up here to all filters, this is where you can get really sort of nitty gritty with it. So if you wanted to meet some new people, you could hit that second degree, so your friends of friends. Say you wanted to stay within your state, and you wanted to, this is my industry, maybe this is the industry that you wanted to look at. And while my search results are popping up, there you go. So these are all friends of people that I'm directly connected with and who I could possibly get an introduction to. So this would be really helpful, you know, say, for example, if I wanted to learn some more about employer relations, which is a part of career services, a part of what I do, I could see if maybe Tim, Hunter, or some other people that I know could give me an introduction to coordinate. The really great thing about messaging on LinkedIn is that you can put more than one person on a message. Perfect for introductions. So that's a couple really quick ways that you can use LinkedIn to find people. There's lots of other ways too, but in the interest of time, I think these are the two most useful. The other thing that I wanted to show you really quickly was You Are Online. And so, like I said, youareonline.net, and it's going to be silly. So I will log in just a second. So like I said, this is the university run. Oh, of course, it's going to make me do that. Okay. So if I just click the online directory, this is what you would see when you get in here. So like I said, pretty much all parts of our institution have their own directories, which is really great. So you can do the undergrad, the law, MBA, and SPCS directories. And the search is not going to be terribly different from each. It's just the results that you get. So I would recommend doing the advanced search because that gives you a little bit more categories to pick from. And most people, like, you might want to look for people with affiliations that you had at the university, maybe some same extracurricular activities, sports and things like that. There's your athletic activity. Maybe you might want to look within the state or a certain profession type. So I just wanted to show you that really quickly to see, you know, that's how you can use your online. So let me navigate back over here to my presentation. So I just have a few more slides left, and then of course, like I said, we'll have time for questions. Like I said earlier, when you are connecting with people on LinkedIn, let me make sure this is, yeah. When you are connecting with people on LinkedIn, make sure that you are please adding a personal note, because like the question that is posed in the Q&A box just a little bit ago, it is really, you're much more likely to get a positive response if you give that personal message and tell somebody why you're reaching out. So things that you want to think about putting in there are introducing yourself really quickly, mentioning any, if you got a referral, like, or say that you had you say that you had that connection, that mutual connection on LinkedIn, you could mention that there as well. Again, the big ones are, why are you reaching out to them? Why do you want to connect with them? And maybe what do you want to learn from them? So say if I wanted to reach out to Dr. Crutcher, you know, so what you first see when you hit that connect button, this is what you'll first see. This box over here to the right. Do not click the done, because that's going to send that automatic connection request message that everybody pretty much, it's the standard one. Everybody knows what it says. That's the impersonal one. What you want to do here is hit that add note. When you hit add note, this box over here to the bottom, this is what you will see. They give you 300 characters, and you can do a lot in 300 characters, believe me. So you just want to write that little message there and then click your done button. So next up, I think we've got some, yes, we have some samples, which is really great. So I did a couple different samples. This page has, you know, alumni connecting with alumni on it, because your language might be a little bit different just depending on what you're, you know, what you're looking for. So some of the good things that you see here in this connection request is that it immediately mentions the You Are connection, which when you are reaching out to alumni, you certainly want to do. If it's somebody with outside of the University of Richmond community, you know, just mentioning if you have any mutual connections, or if you are interested in their organization or something like that. Shows a little bit of research on the person. People put a lot of stuff on their LinkedIn profiles. So there's definitely some good stuff to draw from there. It establishes rapport, and it asks for sort of, it tells them what they want, and this person is looking for some general advice or information, which is totally fine too. So hopefully that, and like I said, I'll send these slides out so you can have this stuff to reference as well. And this page sort of talks about the sample connection request for students to alumni, or maybe if you are really, you know, if you're a 2020 grad, this might sort of resonate with you. So there's one over here, you know, on the left that's finding somebody through a LinkedIn search. And then the one over here on the right is some, you know, talking about meeting somebody, you know, and certainly if you are an experienced professional, if you meet somebody at a virtual event, or, you know, say if you meet a recruiter at a virtual career fair, this is a really good way to think about reaching out to them, you know, about following up after meeting them. That's always a really good thing to do as well. So I think this is my last slide, but I did want to just talk a little bit about engaging with your network on LinkedIn, because I think that's also really important, because you can certainly get the connections, but then the question is, what do you do? Do they just sit there? And, you know, really the goal is not to have them be stale. The goal is for you to engage and keep yourself at the forefront of their mind through some things that you can do on LinkedIn. So like, I think we had a question earlier, you know, who can you connect with? There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that you connect with, all the sort of typical people that you would think about, maybe even some family. I am certainly connected to some family, maybe some people you don't want to be connected to, and that's totally fine. And again, also those that you might meet at other sort of virtual professional type events. My rule of thumb, which has always worked out really well for me, is making sure that if you do meet somebody at a virtual event, or, you know, when we do get back to in-person events sometime soon, sending that connection request within 24 to 48 hours. So first of all, that helps you not forget to do it. And second of all, it keeps both of you fresh in your minds. So it's not 2 weeks later and the person that you're reaching out to goes, I don't remember who you are, or I know I was at that event, but I don't recall our conversation. Keeping it really fresh is just helpful for everybody involved. And even if you're not sending a message on LinkedIn to them, if you collected their business card and you're sending them an email, make sure that's within 24 to 48 hours. Other things that you can do to engage with your network of people on LinkedIn is following companies. I would definitely recommend this, especially if you apply to them. Like I said earlier, I think it's over 90% of recruiters are on LinkedIn. And they can tell really easily if you have followed their company. And all you have to do is go to their company page on LinkedIn, click that blue button, the blue follow button, and there you go. And all of their company information, their news and updates is going to show up in your home feed. So it's really easy to keep up to date with them. Join discussion threads. This is a really great way to brand yourself as somebody that's interested in a certain industry or subject matter. Making sure that you are, this is a big one for me. I think this is a really easy win-win. It can take you 5 minutes to do. Checking your homepage and your newsfeed regularly. Making sure that you are looking for job alerts, checking your notifications. You know, birthdays, they do put that on LinkedIn. And work anniversaries, those are really special for most people. Especially if somebody gets a new job or they're celebrating 5 years at an organization, sending a really quick congratulatory note to them, you know, hey, it's really great to see that you're at XYZ company, still hope you're doing really well, looking forward to catching up soon, right? Just something to engage them and keep you at the forefront of their mind. And the other thing that you can do too is sort of like comment and share on your news feed on the stories that people post to keep top of mind. Like earlier today, one of my colleagues, somebody that has worked with me before and contributed to events, she posted something on LinkedIn that said that she led this really great virtual event and had a picture up there. And I just commented, you know, I said, you're killing it. This looks really awesome. And she wrote me back and said, you know, thanks so much, Becca. I really appreciate it. She said, anything you need to help out at the University of Richmond, please just let me know. So in that 5 seconds that it took me to write that message, she hasn't forgotten who I am, and I have a potential new speaker for any event that I might need in the future. So it's an easy way to keep up with people. And the last thing I have here is just create and share content that is of interest to you. You can do updates on projects or milestones at work or other types of professional achievements. And a lot of people sort of think like, oh, this feels like bragging. I don't really want to do that. You know, as long as you're not posting really, really frequently, and that's a really easy way to sort of maybe perhaps annoy some people on your news feed, you know, but as long as you're every once in a while sharing professional achievements, I mean, I always say, if you don't honk your horn, nobody else is going to. So you've got to toot your own horn out there and tell people what you've been up to in a really tactful way. So I think this is my last slide. Yes, it is. And I hope that this has been really helpful. I know we are almost at time, but I certainly do have some more time for questions. So if you have anything on your mind, please pop it in there. I do see that we have one question so far. So somebody asked, if you contact somebody on LinkedIn and they do not respond, if they have their contact information listed, is it okay to follow up with an email? Yes. I mean, yeah, if they have put their, because one of the things that you can do on your profile with LinkedIn is say in their contact information, I think that's on mine too, you can just email me at my Gmail account. Yeah, if somebody puts it out there publicly on their profile, it's totally okay to do that, and that's a really good idea, because again, some people on LinkedIn, you know, even if they have the app on their phone, they might see the message, they've got a ton of things going on in their life, and they just think, okay, I'm going to get back to that tomorrow, or I'll get back to that next week, and then that time rolls around and it hasn't happened. So yeah, go ahead and reach out and use that email. So I don't see any other questions now, which I really appreciate your time and attention. Again, I really appreciate you spending the time with me. I hope that you did get something out of it. So I see we have one more, which I can get to. Is it better to go to email first or contact them via their LinkedIn account? I mean, I think if you have access to both their LinkedIn or their email, I mean, I would say start with whichever one you prefer, and see. You know, I mean, I think the advantage to email is that you have more space than 300 characters to give some background and introduction and context to why you're reaching out to them. So again, I think it sort of just depends on, you know, what your preference is, but if you have access to both, both are fine, whichever one you prefer. Well, thank you. I appreciate your nice messages in the chat. I am really glad that you, yes, I always love teaching people about LinkedIn. It has, I mean, they continue to revolutionize themselves, which is really amazing. And I think that you're doing a really good job of it. So thank you all so much. I will go ahead and wrap stuff up now. And like I said, if you, let me get over there. There's my contact information. If you guys have any follow-up questions, comments, if you want to connect in an appointment, like I said, Spider Connect, just please reach out to me, send me an email, and I would be more than happy to help set you up with that, and we can get chatting. The last thing that I will just plug before we go today is our events calendar. If you go to either careerservices.richmond.edu or if you go to alumni.richmond.edu, you can view the events calendars. Some events are cross-listed. I will say that for our young grads, especially the class of 2020, because you graduated into a not great economy, many of our events are, because we are in the virtual space, it is a lot easier for us to open our events to wider audiences. So even though you're not a student, still check out careerservices.richmond.edu events calendar and see what kind of things you might be interested in attending. So I will go ahead and wrap it up there. But again, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Let me know if you have any other questions, and happy networking.